guess that's accurate. So I was mentioning some of my dreams that I've been having, and how I'll wake up and I'll hear things once I'm awake. And again, other frequencies, dimensions, timelines, I don't know, conversations. And this morning when I woke up, I recalled hearing a conversation about people keeping divine beings under spells. They're trying to keep kingdom spouses apart, basically, and they're bringing in karmics and attempting to keep them under some kind of a spell to keep them from finding their kingdom spouses, essentially to restore balance on the planet. They're working diligently at trying to prevent this from happening. I noticed too, and I need to speak about it because it's been happening now for a little while, and I don't know if anybody else is having the same experience, but I will close my eyes and can see something in front of my eyes swinging back and forth. So then it's like I hear conversations like that, close my eyes and see that, and I'm like, well, so this is happening. And like, I'm nervous about speaking about it because I realize how serious those things are, which is why I also keep talking about it. I wonder what the people that do these things are aware of what they're doing to their eternal soul. I pray that they do, especially this day and age. But I also recognize too, it started after I went through this whole awakening process. I hear these frequencies now, and there's many people kind of going through this, right? But I know that there's lots of help out there. You might not see them, but they're there. And I feel like I can say that because when you've survived so many things you lost count, and then the spiritual gifts are just coming online all of a sudden, you're like, oh, I'm here for a reason. And even though I've been through a lot, I survived a lot. So things I gotta recognize and be like, I have protection. Might not see it, but it's there. But I'm aware I need to start talking about some of these things that I hear sometimes, because I feel like it's important for other people to know that these things are happening. I'm not the only one talking about this stuff. And I want to go out and just kind of like talk to people, but then you realize not everybody's going through this stuff, so I do it this way. And people that are on that frequency will find these things, and it's start like a news channel of the truth, you know? Path to ascension, you know, it's going to be a little difficult for those of us going through it at first, but we're literally bringing in a completely new paradigm and remembering and bringing a whole new way of life, and it's like, what do you choose? You know, who do you choose to be? What kind of frequency do you choose to carry? And what's your focus? Is it the journey of humanity and saving the soul? Reconnecting again to source, remembering who and what we are on the deepest possible levels? Or the temporary, fleeting existence that is temporary and fleeting? I'm not one that, like, when I started to go through my awakening, I really had to go back and research as much as I could to understand what was happening to me. It took me well outside. I mean, I've always, like, from the time I was born, my biggest, like, thing that I've been drawn to, it was Egypt and, like, the ancient ways, and just, um, always, it was something in my soul. It felt like home to me. I've never been. I really want to go. Um, but it's just something that's always, since I was a little kid, um, right? And they understood, but I feel, because I'm aware that I'm an old soul, and I feel that the reason why I've always felt that way is because they understood back then the journey of the soul. It wasn't just about temporary existence, it was about having that relationship between the material and the spirit still together in the journey of the eternal soul. That was like the most important thing to them back then. And then I don't know, apparently, I don't know, our species maybe thought we could do it better. Maybe, potentially. I mean, it's like we've done this before. I feel like the planet's much older than we think it is, too. Yeah, but that's when you gotta get outside that box and the dogma and all that and be like, I got questions. So many questions. Right, and I've been wanting to talk about these things for months, but going through the awakening process and just waking up on my own, because, I mean, really, it's difficult in today's society to wake up with other people, because they want to be like, no, you're wrong, or no, that's bad, or whatever. And then, so I just sat and I meditated my way through it, and researched, and what made sense. And these things, like, I find it interesting, but at the same time, like, it's also a little sad, because you realize this is, I feel, the greatest awakening that we've had on this planet, specifically, one, because it's needed, and two, because we've finally got to a point where there's so many different race, creeds, religions, and cultures that have combined and intertwined and moved around the planet, that we're in this unique position. Plus we have the internet now and can communicate with one another and learn from each other. So lots of different reasons why. But then you recognize, and like, I'm trying to be mindful, like, when I first started to awaken, there was this part of me that, because you got to think about what was done thousands of years ago to people that went through these processes, that awakened and were awakened to a higher truth than what we're told to believe down here, some of us. And it was like I went through all those emotions, and it was very difficult. Right? It's just it's planetary wounding, basically. And when you go through like a very real awakening, especially very rapidly, that was something like my mind may not recall like memories. I mean, sometimes like I would have flashes of images that would just start coming in. Right, and I want to delve into that and do like past life regression and things like that to help me to kind of understand like my personal journey. And I've been looking into things, following like my bloodline and whatnot, and it's not just about that, but it's still relevant. But when you recognize and you look back, and there's like this big gap in evolution between like apes and whatnot, and then more than likely higher beings from other planets came in and manipulated DNA and created the human being. Chances are there's probably other beings out there, and we got the technology that we got here these days. They can travel the cosmos, so theirs is probably better. Obviously. But right, whether it's in spirit, other dimensions, higher realms, otherworldly, there's always help. But I want to talk about these things, I don't have nobody to talk to. Talk to myself and a higher power and my phone. Right, but you gotta be looking into like the whole 5D ascension thing, which is really stepping into a higher consciousness and living from the heart space and different path, you know. And you really have to challenge like your beliefs and what you're told and what society tells you you are and how you're supposed to be and the way that it is. Because if you don't, how do you know thyself? You don't. You know what everybody told or made you feel that you think you're supposed to be or how you're supposed to be, or do you really know thyself? And if you're stuck inside a box that just tells you one thing, chances are, no. Maybe in the temporary existence, but do you know yourself as a soul? You might know the energies that you carry, and you may know how you are in this temporary existence, but do you know who you are on a soul level? And are you being guided by the soul into, and you know when you're in alignment with truth and love and peace and unity, which is easier said than done, right? Especially in today's society. It's getting better. It's getting better. Oh, good times. Good times. Go through the awakening, they said. Then you wake up and you're like, now what? Who in the world do I talk to now? Because you can't push it on anybody, you know? And it takes really to sit with yourself for a little bit and getting through your own stuff, along with facing generations stuff. And be like, let's break the chains, let's wake up. And it takes a really strong character and soul to do that, right? You really gotta go through life experiences, and it's a challenge, right, to go through a lot of things and still come out with grace and kindness and love for all things, you know? It's a hard thing to do. And like for a long time, even just that, because I was overly sensitive, I thought something was wrong with me, and then I woke up and I was like, wait a minute. So it's like, I carry a light, I love everybody, there's nothing wrong with me, like I might be sensitive, but I'm nice and I'm kind and I'm a good soul, I'm friendly, and I try and help people as much as I can. And that can be taxing on a person, however, on a soul level, makes me pretty amazing. Truth be told, I wouldn't want to be any other way. It can be painful and it's a heavy weight to carry, but at the same time, the world needs it right now, and I'd rather be one of the good guys. I'd rather be one of the people willing to go through the fire and go through the pain and go through these experiences so that I can awaken, turn around, figure out what actually helps to heal, so I can turn around and help future generations from not ever having to experience the kind of things that I did. Essentially making me a badass for the higher realms. Came in here to get my butt kicked by spirit, and I did, but I came out with grace and love so that I could see where help is truly needed, the kind of things that you can't learn in school or from a book because you don't feel the pain. And it's okay, it takes both, you know. I was just one of those ones where, like, yeah, in the physical it looked like a mess, but what I was doing on a spiritual level, the work that I was doing on a spiritual level, it might not look great in the physical, but allowed me the opportunity to truly see what's needed for healing, you know. And then you start to recognize like the different soul journeys that people are on. If you feel told to go do something like mine, I felt lost for so long, and then I woke up and I was like, that's what it was all for. Because I can bring a different perspective now, because like boots on the ground type of thing, getting my butt kicked. So I could see what maybe others were not able to, because they didn't have the life experience to have the ability to see the kind of things that I did and still come through it like, okay, like here's some knowledge and wisdom on how to help people heal in a different perspective, you know? I was like, yay! Thank the heavens for those energies. Yeah, I mean, light bulb. It's pretty much. Yeah, and I'm grateful to be healing now. I'm proud of myself. It's been really difficult. And it's like I could use some help with it, like somebody come and be like, come on, let's get you physically back into shape, ma'am. The problem is, because I'm not showing, you can't see what I'm going through now, because I'm not suppressing and all numbed out, and I'm not fine, like I don't go out and drink and party, and I don't, I'm sober. So I don't look like a mess, so everyone's just like, oh, she's fine. She just sits there quietly and meditates all day. And it's like, well, yeah. Which is good, But also, I could a little more than that. Granted, I'm also somebody that, because of the place that I was in and what I was going through, I spent like 3 years pretty much lying in bed, dealing with grief, and not being very good to myself. And I don't like to talk about what I was doing at the time. It wasn't necessarily a drug, it was something else. But I don't like to discuss it, because I don't feel that it's appropriate right now to discuss that in my experiences that I was going through while it was happening, until that stuff is banned for life and off the market, and then maybe I would feel better about telling my story. However, I went through something pretty devastating to the physical body, and also laid in bed for years, and now it's like I woke up and I can see and I want to like do all this stuff, and I'm trying to get going again, but all by myself. Which, like, if I could do it, not if when I do it, and I'll be like, I won't need to, I don't want to say that. I'll be stronger than ever. Put it that way. But it's difficult, right? And that's where, like, I miss my friends. Like, my best friend, Sunny, when I would get like that, it was absolutely not. We fought like brother and sister. We were soul siblings, But he would show up and he would drag me out of my house. He'd throw me in the shower, pick out the cutest outfit ever. He picked out clothes better than I did. And he would make sure to get me up and get me going. And that's kind of when everything changed for me. I talk a lot about how I went into solitude for like a decade. I lost it in 2014. And everything changed after that. I was in bed for months. It just hit. And then it just kind of kept happening for the next few years. To the point, like, I woke up one day and I tapped it out is what I did. I was going through all that, and instead of dealing with what I was going through or talking to anybody about it, I put my head down and I worked. That was all I did, like, ridiculous amount of hours. And then everything has changed after that. Like, prior to that, I was very social, and I would go out a lot, and I've been through a lot before that, if I'm being honest. And I had like just a couple of years where it was a lot of fun, right? I say fun, but also reckless, you know. Just going out a lot, and I was really like I had like 2 years where I was only on the weekends where I would drink. I'm not much like to sit at home and drink. Occasionally I might have one here and there, but that's about it. So I just spent that like 10 years where I just worked. That's all I did, and hang out. I didn't go out. I was sober the whole time, and I just worked and I put money away. I opened up my own company and I started running that, and I was doing well, and I had my things, but internally, due to years of trauma since I was a little kid, and then just going through losing so many people so quickly, and then it was like after that, like I had all these things, it was a mess on the inside. Allowing people into my life that didn't have any kind of good intentions for me at all, but because I couldn't see my own worth, right? When you start going through things at a very young age, your self-worth is already. So I was allowing people to come in, and I was just like, I started not being very good to myself, and then it was just like, something stepped in and was like, no. Because I was trying to get help, and I kept trying to get surgery. I kept going in the hospitals, in treatment, doing all that, really, because I wanted it, and at that point, it wasn't even because, like, in the past, like, years prior, I had gone to, like, treatment centers for addiction and whatnot, and this time, I was going because my heart was broken, and I was dealing with grief, and I was not okay. And it was, like, all these places I went into, it was all, they would claim that they were mental health. They're like, oh, we're mental health first and secondary addiction. But the only thing that they would offer was addiction courses and classes and whatnot. So it's like, well, you guys aren't being honest, and the only reason that they do that is because if you claim mental health, then they can keep you for like 90 plus days because it's mental health, and your insurance is just charged and charged and charged, and they'll pay it. If you go in for addiction, it's 28 days and that's it, you're out, and that's all your insurance will cover. So if they say mental health first versus addiction, then even if you're there for addiction, they can keep you there for 90 plus days and your insurance will pay the whole thing. It's a big scam. It's sad because people are struggling and hurting and losing their lives every day because of a corrupt system that doesn't even, by the day that I got out, they asked me why I was there, and I know I say that a lot, it's just frustrating to me because I was court ordered to be there. Something that was never followed up on. And they had to ask me why I was there, and out of 120 people, I was the only one that was there for a broken heart, and they still didn't know what I was there for. It's just aggravating. And it was like after that, finally, like, something else stepped in and was like, you're gonna sit and go into meditation and figure out what works. At that point, I was already having visions, and then I had one that showed me this full path of like healing, like real healing, and using like sound and frequency and vibration, which if it creates the universe, it could probably help heal everybody too. But that's where, like, I realized, like, then I became grateful. Because I was going through so much, and I've been through so much, and I was looking for healing, and I couldn't find it. And I learned this gratitude because something higher I spent so much time thinking I was forgotten. Either forgotten or that I wasn't. When you lose a lot of people and you're still here, I felt like heaven didn't want me. And I felt that way because I had been through so much. And society told me I was damaged. So that I was damaged, I was hurting. And I kept looking for help. I kept going into these places. I mean, I walked into a courtroom and the judge had to do a double take because he's like, "Do you really know what you're here for?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he didn't understand because technically to be able to file a Marchman Act on somebody, they have to be incapable of caring for themselves. And I was of sound mind and body. I was like, "Yes, sir, I know exactly what I'm here for. Please send me. I'd like to go." Where I ended up in a place that had to ask me why I was there so they could do my discharge paperwork. But I feel grateful because I went through all these things, and then because of how much I was hurting, it was like something stepped in. It was like, I gotta help this one. And it's not just me. There's so many. I'm one of many that are going through this experience of looking for healing where we can't yet find it. And I look forward to this awakening process where people are remembering and going through this, and where we get to bring in the true healing and truly setting the soul free again. There's a lot to my story, right? And I recognize the things that I need to speak about, because people need to know that this stuff can happen. Yeah, I had all my things, and I was letting people come into my life that didn't have, not only did they not have good intentions for me, they were involved in some dark stuff, and it was like when I excluded those people from my life because they weren't healthy for me, and I stopped paying their child support and giving them the keys to my vehicle and making sure everybody else was coming, people that didn't even like me, like at all. It wasn't about them, it was making sure that their child stayed in the private school that they couldn't afford, and I was doing well enough to be able to provide that at the time, so I did. And then when I asked that person to leave, my whole world went sideways after seeing something burn into my bedroom door that you couldn't see in the bed. It didn't, and it disappeared. I don't know about things like that, but I know 6 months later I started having visions. Ultimately, a year and a half later, leading to me meeting with a higher power one-on-one, wanting to know why I was making myself suffer. And I wasn't able to put all this stuff together initially because I didn't know about those things. I didn't know what was really, and now it's like, oh. And like, this is the kind of stuff like I want to talk to people about and be like, I need some assistance with understanding. You know, and now I just like, I pray all the time. I wake up and I'm praying constantly, and not just for myself but for everybody. Most people don't even realize that that's a thing, and that's a messed up thing, is that I feel like there's people that know these things exist, and that things can just be, you know, done to innocent people that don't even realize. And it's like, how do you it could have just been that I was being, as it sounds grief, and being so bad to myself that it, I don't know. it's what led me to start researching a lot of things. And like I started researching like ancient stories and different belief systems, and it was like I remember watching the story of a nun and completely lost it because that's how I felt. I felt like I was in the four-letter H word because of what I was going through, and was just all my things were being taken or lost or whatever it was. And I cried. I bawled my eyes out. I also read them tablets, which aren't sad, and I bawled my eyes out reading those. And then anytime I see anything with Jesus, or especially him on the cross, I cry. And it was like something, because I was grieving so deeply, stepped in and was like, sit and meditate your way through this. And then again, like I said it in another video, like I feel like some of the gods stepped in and were like, we gotta help put this one's soul back together because she's hurting. And I heard it one night when I was going through the awakening, something I couldn't see, like, we gotta help this one. So I'm aware that there's a higher power, something stepped in to be like, because I know I'm a good self and a good spirit and a good soul, and I see the healing plan that I was able to kind of put together because of all the things that I've been through, and I know something stepped in to help guide me, and I know that it's been a team effort. And I feel very isolated in the physical a lot of the time, but I also realize what I'm going through is something that many people will not understand. I want to talk about it, but I don't have the patience to be told, oh, you're cray-cray, here's some pills. I tried that. That didn't work. Truth be told, like, I laugh now, and even like my mother said it a few weeks ago, she goes, this is the first time I've seen you laugh in over 30 years. And it was a true statement. She wasn't exaggerating, she wasn't, and it was like, I'm grateful for that. As painful as it's been, as much as I've been through, like, I see where my focus is now and what I get to work on, and the kind of help and perspective that I can bring. And it's like I'm grateful for it now, as hard as it's been.